Thank you so much for being here. I've been a follower for a very long time, and I don't know, just always wanted to talk to you and never had the opportunity. So thanks for doing this.
Why? Why would you want to talk to me? I'm a madman.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
what's
exactly why I want to talk to you.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, like what? Tell me a little bit about. First of all, I love the format, but like, what's the inquiry? Like, why would you want? What was it that kind of drew you to that? And the reason I'm asking is so that we can like, yeah, set a container and then I'll reflect it back to you.
So, what is my reason for podcasting in general?
Oh, no. That you wanted to talk to me specifically in the time that you followed me. Like, what is it that resonated?
Oh man, I mean, you've done things so different than the other folks in the industry, right? Setting names aside, like everybody kind of went after fame or stardom or money or community or whatever that be, and you kind of just stuck your middle finger up to the world and was like, that's not really what I'm interested in doing. However, you're kind of like the godfather of all the principles that I use in my agency or have in the past. And I don't know, you've had your time in the spotlight, you've done your videos, you've done speaking engagements, you've done multiple 6-figure jobs, 7-figure jobs, maybe, I don't even know. But in my early days of learning about the creative industry, I was drawn to your content. Like, how do you get this alignment between your clients and the end goal, right? And so, anyways, it's just a long way of saying I have followed everything that you've ever done, and your sort of middle finger to everybody has been something that just has always resonated with me. And it seems like you're continuing that path. Like you kind of change, you bob, you weave, you develop, you're doing something now, you're in Panama. Like, it's just crazy. And as an ENTP, that speaks to my freaking soul of just having fun, doing what you want to do. Sure, hopefully you get paid along the way, but it's not the goal at the end of the day. So it's a very long way of saying that's why I want to talk to you.
Holy shit. Okay. Now we set some very clear like expectations. No, I mean, the reason I also ask is because that means we're a reflection of each other. If you look at like everyone in the community inside the system on Circle, you know, there's only like 150 some people, and it's okay. It's like a slow boil since last summer when I started it, or last fall when I started concertedly, you know, building it. But you know, I'm using the Burning Man camp kind of strategy, which is like people come, whatever they pick up, whatever they help with, you start like doing it a little bit publicly. And right now we're doing, you know, core defining the strategy for the community, like what do people want, and I'm letting go of it and letting new people kind of take over. And then that's what I learned from the 9 years of like, you know, doing that and as part of my journey. And the middle finger part, you know, you're not the first person to say that I didn't pursue fame. Here's an ironic thing, you know, that's what I originally was kind of driven by, like this idea that you read the 4-Hour Work Week in 2007 and you're like, man, I don't want to have an agency. I want to like work 4 hours and like travel and be part of the new Riche or whatever the heck the title was for the book. And I'm the guy who tries it, like Mikey in the commercials and the cereal commercials. And that's also my human design. I'm a manifesting generator. My cross is the cross of contagion. Like I do it and I put it out a little bit. I don't even finish most of it.
Yeah,
to be clear,
for sure.
As frustrating as that might be for some, but then other people take it over. Like the minute I saw Chris take over, you know, the Skool and the mandate of that, I said, well, this motherfucker is going to actually spread this stuff out for reals. Yeah. So I'm going to go out and like just figure out the other part, so that when that's now spread all over the world, the Capricorn version of that, like let's make money doing what you love, which he's a master teacher and it's amazing. Yeah. But now we're like, okay, now we're older. Now we have white hair. Like, what do we do now? What's real? What the fuck is happening? Jose, where have you been? I'm like, you know, I've been on a journey. And the last part of that is that we are at the kind of threshold of a new era, right? Like literally as we stand, like, we are just standing there looking at this new world. And that's what we're all here to do, meaning you, me, everyone in the community. We're here to like guide each other to the other side of this, which is pretty big deal because
Yeah.
it's unprecedented. That's my
One of the things that we were talking about prior to this was personality types and readings and things like that. And I'd like to know maybe when you glommed onto those things. Did you glom onto those early? I personally didn't. It was around 30 when I started learning about personality types, and it's been sort of a North Star for me. And right now in my career, I'm now using that to try to guide my career, not just my personal life. So I kind of want to know, just I don't know, when did that sink in, and when did you lean into that?
I I went to when you're scaling an agency, for someone like me, I'm a designer. That's what I know. Study. I've worked at big agencies. I started my career at Razorfish for like 6 years, but there's no roadmap. So I did a lot of training. Like I tried to go to different, from transformational stuff, like Landmark, etc. But then I said I want to go to management training because I don't know, what do I know? Uh, and I went to a management training. It was called MAP, Management Action Program, something like that, in like Orange County in a hotel. All the tropes of like business. Uh, uh, Holiday Inn. It's like it could have been a Saturday Night Live skit. Um, and it was pretty fascinating because they gave everybody before you showed up the DISC assessment, which is a psychometric assessment. And then during the session, uh, they put us into our respective, personalities. And then they did the final. So DISC, dominance, influence. I always forget the S, which I'm forgetting
Sure.
right now. And then the C is compliance. Uh, Steadiness, I think, is what the S is. Steadiness and compliance. Like, notice how those are like,
Yeah, yeah.
steady is the rhythm, and that is in the Fido. That is that's dorky, and compliance is the evil. Uh, so at the end, they did this exercise where they. I'm not going to explain the exercise, but everybody pretty much behaved to the T to their personality. I was ID, influence and dominance. So I dominate through influence. I influence to dominate, right?
Yeah.
Versus there's people that are dominant first and then compliance, right? So if you think of obnoxious, which you are, and evil, so you're basically your astrology. You're actually Pisces is uh, convergent. You're like the quiet catalyst. That's why you're saying you haven't been on, you haven't done this, gotten on stage. Um, but you're also like the priest, like how it should be done, like it should be done right. Um, so it's funny. I learned astrology when I got divorced, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's start dating. And I had a teacher and my playa husband who taught me how to pick up girls with astrology. Which for me, being the son of a Seventh Adventist pastor who matured very late in life, and for the most part, I was pretty asexual. Let's say that. Uh, not that I wasn't sexual. I just was kind of not necessarily too kind of defined early. So
Yeah.
in my late 30s, early 40s, to start that journey was interesting. But what I basically learned by dating every sign, um, uh, and also friendships and crushes and everything, knowing everyone's kind of signs, you really begin to understand how the energy interacts between people relative to their personality. So I'll give you an example. Leo is like the lion. They want the attention. They're outgoing, and performative. But then the counter to that is that they the wounded, the lion in the Wizard of Oz, right? He's cowardly, and what he has to gain is confidence. So when somebody shows up in the community, and I know they're astrology and they're Leo, and they keep apologizing for being in our calls. Keep in mind, our calls are just a playground for the training and the work that we're doing to build confidence to come out, basically, which is what we're doing right here. I know immediately that I'm like, stop apologizing, take time, take up space. No timer.
Yeah.
And that right there, doing it over and over again and providing a safe space for that, and knowing that helps me basically tune, the space for that individual. Scorpio, right, which is the opposite of Taurus. And the phytos and astrology sometimes aren't, necessarily the people. I don't know how to adjust that. Maybe in the illustrations, like you could be obnoxious, flaky, and be very quiet.
Sure.
But also be very philosophical and kind of like not go in a straight line. And you want to have that space to kind of talk and to not have the harshness of like, okay, you have to, you have a timer and you have to do it this way, right? So the reason why I'm sharing that is that when I started getting interested in that management training, see, I'm going to circle back to it, even though I've wandered. I realized early on that one, you're probably not, unless everyone knows it or understands it and then knows how to communicate, how to listen, like the mitigation of the personalities isn't necessarily knowing that the other person is this way. That's helpful. That allows for empathy. That allows for you to forgive them for not to think, well, that guy's an asshole. Or for you to come in and say, it should be done this way. And like, my little brother, he's a Pisces and he's just very quiet until he's not. And he blows up and he goes, no, you're doing it wrong. And the point is that if you're aware, now you can create a space to include everyone and to allow the different styles. Then finally, the part of that matters is the middleware for that in an operating system like a community or a company or an agency or a relationship is literally presence. It's just listening, knowing if oh, my apologies, when you said, this, it made me feel this way, and it created this in me. So maybe what if we do it this way in the future? I didn't go towards you in that kind of like feedback. I went to the objective, to the thing that happened, how it made me feel, because everything is about me, right? I'm the asshole. I'm the one reacting. I'm the one experiencing it, no matter what. Even if you did something to me that is considered not nice or not great, at the end is how I respond to it. If I don't take it personally and you're just being, whatever, great. You can kind of flow around that. And that's the lesson from Burning Man and building, like, with all these different personalities, where I'm just like, how do people do this?
Yeah.
They just don't take anything personally.
Sure. Yeah, that's really like, cool.
F you. Okay, this is not. Hey, stop doing that over there, you buddy. And I'm like, sorry. Okay, and you adjust in real time without all the pomp and circumstance of civility.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a somewhat similar story about how I got into personality types. It happened right around 30 years old. I've always struggled with communicating to people. I've always thought that I was different. I grew up in a household of people who thought a very specific way, and there wasn't really an exploration out of those bounds. So it wasn't until I left the house that I was free to explore and do all of these things. Fast forward to around 30, I have like my very first heartbreak. Like this gal completely just crushed my soul. And I called my mom. I was crying. I don't know why somebody would do this to me. Why would they say those things? Whatever. And from that moment on, I sort of went on this journey of trying to understand myself so that I could receive information from people a better way. I could deliver information a better way. And that kicked off the personality type stuff. I took the Myers-Briggs test. Granted, I did take it in college as well, but I didn't pay any attention to it. It was just an exercise. I did it. So when I'm doing it later in life as an exploration, I really dig into it. And I'm starting to learn the differences between some of the main letters that help people understand the way people think, right? Intuitives and sensors. Those are the N and the S are the two letters that are vastly different. And realizing that I live in intuitive land and the majority of the population lives in sensor land, that was a huge defining moment for me. So I use this to not only understand myself, but other people so that I can communicate and sort of fix the personal aspect of my life. While I'm doing that, I'm running my first real business. And it was an e-commerce business where I sourced kids scooters from China. So I flew over to China. I found a manufacturer. I figured out how to ship them back to the United States and pay customs and warehouse them. And I built the website, and I built at the time what I called a brand. So I'm running this thing, and it just so happens that my business partner was a sensor. Not good, not bad, completely indifferent. But the biggest problem was we could not communicate between the two of us. That company ultimately fails, and I'm in the building that I'm currently in right now, and there's a creative agency next door to me. And I run into the owner, and we start talking. He's talking about personality types. I had just started to learn about him. He was an expert in them. We had a really great connection. He's an INTJ. So an INTJ knows how to like systematize and put all these thoughts together, where the ENTP has no idea how to do that, but they've got a vision, whatever. So we have this great relationship, and he basically invites me into the agency. I go through a vesting period, become a creative, and then we start applying these techniques to working with clients. And so when we would have a lead come in, we would basically type them immediately to try to figure out what their type was. And that would inform us how to deliver that information to that lead. Because most of the time people are coming in, they don't really know what they're looking for, at least at the level of clients that we're working with. So we can identify, oh, this is an intuitive. We can kind of talk big ideas and not really worry about the process, talk about budgets down the road, things like that. Or on the flip side, hey, this is a sensor. They're going to need the 5 steps that we're going to take. They need the budget, and they need it laid out by, I don't know, maybe hourly rate per person, whatever. So the personality types was just a huge catalyst to communicating with folks. And I've found that over the years, I'm just really drawn to intuitives, and allowing a conversation to kind of twist and turn and flow, and then circle back to the original topic that we were on, which is like, how did we get started in typing people? And Fido, I mean, it's kind of amazing that that's something that you created and put together and have your own system around. And it's been hugely beneficial to me. It's still a challenge, though, to this day, working in the client space, to try to maybe refigure that stuff out a little bit. To kind of back up, my partner and I closed down our agency at the end of 23. We kind of went our separate ways. I wanted to do something different. I didn't know what that was. And he wanted to buy a restaurant. So he went and bought a restaurant, and he's over there juggling baguettes. And I'm kind of refiguring out what I want to do with my life and my career. Hence the reason that we're talking today, hence the reason that we're talking about personality types and all of these different configurations of communication. I just know that as an ENTP, I got to talk. And this is my step of coming out of the shadows and really honing back in on some of these things that I think I've lost over the last 2 years or so, which is reading people and understanding people and communicating effectively with people. And I don't know, I just thought there's no better person to talk to than Jose.
I have so many thoughts. It's like you have to meditate, almost have a meditation just to keep it anchored.
Well,
But
I can like slow down and cut this my talks in half if you like.
No. There no time limits. No. Let's just let it flow. Emotion. Like as a manifester, um, uh, here's your strengths, real quick. You're a wise observer. You see the long arcs and can offer perspectives to people. Magnetic leadership when you're grounded. Others do follow. Emotional depth, your clarity emerges over time, so it's worth the wait. It's funny. I'm reading your what's your life purpose, your cross, the cross. I don't know who named this stuff.
Sure.
The left angle cross of migration. You're here to help people cross the threshold. So when I pulled that card at the beginning, and yeah, we're looking over the threshold into the new, and I'm like, oh shit, mine is just to spark it. I'm not here to finish anything. I'm here just to spark it. And then you are here to help the crossing. So it says you serve as a midwife for the future.
That is interesting.
Yeah. When honored, it becomes a compass, and you need to lead. You don't need to lead with force. You lead by simply modeling the new way, which we're doing here. You're getting on the mic and you're having.
Can I ask you a question on this really quick? Because I've been dealing with this struggle in the agency world for a very long time. What you're saying is correct. I can see that arc. I can see that midwifery path to kind of like, hey, here's how I can help you transition. But you know what I'm not good at is, let's say, executing for in the agency world, right? Or in the midwifery way, it's like, no, you had the child and it's your baby now. You've got to run with it. So I guess the question is like, how does all of that, how do I make a living out of that? How do I follow my path in that space? And it's, you don't have to have the answer. It's more of that open-ended idea, right?
It's a conversation, and trust me, I've had the same issue, right? And here's the best thing that I can offer. In my 20s and 30s, being absolutely just unconscious and driven by survival mode, or what you would call the obnoxious part of my Fido, obnoxious, flaky. I gave no fucks. I just, and I'm a Taurus, so that's my sun sign, right? I just careened forward. Now, when I hurt someone, or when somebody was like, whoa, 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 I at least had somebody to tell me. So in my life, I have a lot of Geminis around me. My ex-partner, my brother, clients, my current partner, all those people are Geminis, right? And they are known for just saying the truth, hopefully lovingly. So
Yeah.
that kept me from being too much of, an a-hole. And then the interesting thing is that we're afraid, right, of not being enough, or of, okay, I'm this way, so how do I do the rest of it? And that's where everybody knowing each other's kind of personalities with all the tools, whatever they are. I'll give you an example. With the Fido, I'm flaky obnoxious. I'm like, hey, check it out, you have to do this. I then meet an evil dorky person, Christo, and I'm like, hey, dude, like, rah! And he's like, what are you talking about? Here, let's get on YouTube, and you see the results now, right? But I realized that that's my role, that I got to stop trying to be him, or to, I am just going to show up somewhere and like do me, and things will happen. And,
Yeah.
the more aligned you are to your gift, or to your navigation is what I call it, um, the better it is. So I'll give you an example. If in your Fido you are obnoxious evil, you are quantitative, so you can actually kind of work on delivery. But the obnoxious part, you explore a lot of things, but hitting the one thing is kind of like, ugh.
Yeah.
So triangulating that with somebody who is dorky, which is process, right? And in the Fido, um, um, uh, flaky, which is kind of ideas, right? Like just a lot of ideas. So a flaky dorky, which a lot of designers are, they have a lot of ideas. They just do the process, and hopefully they show up to the end. And so you see the frameworks that I've developed have been developed mainly for people like us that are nonlinear. People that are linear, which I added later, needed the 6 steps for each exercise.
Yeah.
We just see you or people that are obnoxious, they see me do it once and they just go do it.
Yeah.
They don't even read the instructions. So that
Yeah.
dynamic and recognizing it. So here's the answer for that in a very specific way. If I know that I'm not going to pay attention to the process or to the details, I need to have somebody around me that will do that, or I need to call for it, right? I need to ask for it. And then in some ways, I need to model it for myself, at the core of what it is. So whether that's a budget, or whether that is a project plan, or whether that is, until you have somebody to do it with you, doing contracts, right? That's why the first things that got released uh, uh, as part of the Skool, which became the Futur, were a contract template, right? Which was the MSA for my agency, the Groop, a proposal template, which is, this is how you pitch and sell in a consultative way, not in a agency. Production companies do not sell that way.
Right.
That model came from digital agencies, which I obviously worked in, and then magnified and simplified, simplified and amplified by Chris's experience in design, uh, to where then it really became something that almost anybody can use. Look, I've been traveling around the world, and I've gotten pitched with my own template, with the same template that, and I'm like looking at it and going like, okay, this is. Or my brother, he's building a business in Puerto Rico, and the people are pitching him or selling. He already signed the deal, but they were explaining to him that they're going to use this process called core, and they're giving him the whole thing,
Wow.
to tell him how they're going to design his stuff. And he's like, "Thank you very
Uh-huh.
much."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got it. Check.
Jose Caballer is my brother, and they're like, "What? Oh my god!" They couldn't figure it out. So, but the thing I'm going to say to give us hope, because I'll be super frank, or Shirley. It's a thing. It causes a lot of anxiety. So my hope and my wish in our community and in general is that through these tools, you recognize each other, and then you provide the most important thing there is for us to be able to pass the threshold. And it's like, what do you need? You know, Basically holding space neutrally without judgment. And what do you need? And I don't have to do it for you, but if you tell me, oh, you need to find someone who's evil dorky, I can point it out in the community and say, they can help you on the timelines. They can help you on getting your budgets done. They can help you on getting this. Because the reality is that level of co-creation is what helps people succeed. But the
Yeah.
majority of the models that we see today uh, are very individualistic, in that, like, you have to do it all, right? You're a creator and you're an individual creator. But what happens to us, people that we like doing stuff with other people, or we like doing it differently, there isn't really a lot of space for that. And that's what we've been developing over these last 6 months. with the key people in the core circle, which, by the way, most of them are, with some exceptions, there's some evil dorky people there, a few, but a good portion of the core of the core circle are obnoxious, flaky, obnoxious
Yeah.
people. Or evil obnoxious is a very common one, which to me, the one that scares me, if you have an E in your profile, it kind of scares me because I know I'm going to disappoint you somehow. But I'm learning for self accountability and just to name it. Hey, I'm flaky obnoxious or obnoxious flaky, I think. And that's a challenge. And I know that my fear is to disappoint you. Okay, it's been said.
Yeah.
So now we roll and we figure it out.
Oh man. I mean, it's really kind of cool to pull the curtains back and understand a little bit more about the system, right? And what your vision of that thing is. Because when I first joined, I'm like, cool, what is this community? Is Jose going to be talking all the time? Like, is he leading this thing, or what are we doing in here? You know, I kind of showed up unknowing of what this thing is, and Brian has helped kind of share some of the inside stuff on how it works and what's going on. But it's really cool to hear from you directly. These are the things that we're doing, and that feels really good and comfortable to me in that space. Now I'm looking at it a little bit differently, like, oh, maybe I should pay a little bit more attention to those speedos and figure out how I can collaborate with some of them. You know, as you know, I went to New York and met up with Felice. That was super awesome. It was great. We had wonderful conversations, and I think we're still trying to figure out, hey, how can we work together? But aside from that, it's a great friendship. He's a wonderful person. But long story short, is looking at it a little bit differently is hugely beneficial. You know, at the end of the day, I'm coming out of a really, really hard burnout phase. And I haven't been in this industry as long as you or a lot of other folks. You know, I'm in about 10 years or so now. But after the agency, I was completely burnt out. You know, it's just you're one client away from being a millionaire and you're one client away from closing the doors every single day. And you know, we had signed a mid 6-figure contract. It was our largest contract at the time, and they basically walked. And I think at that moment it was like my partner and I looked at each other like, well, we're just done here. This is enough with this type of work. I had my baby in the beginning of 2024, so I kind of took 24 off. Come back to 25, I restart this journey. Instead of hiding behind a logo, a company, a corporation, I decided it's going to be Kevin Mooney. It's just going to be myself. I'm just going to do me. And so far it's served me, but I'm still running into the same issues that I ran into at the agency, right? You're still juggling all of the things. You're still trying to sell all the time. You're still doing project management. You're still trying to be creative. You're fighting against budgets and people who maybe don't know the words that you're saying. And so I'm exploring these other opportunities of how do I get out of said client work, and how do I get back to that core idea of let's have fun in business. Let's do fun things. Let's just enjoy what we do every day, day in and day out. And, you know, talking is one of those things for me. But, you know, I can still go back to the system and look at the group a little bit, look at it through a different lens and be happy about that. So I appreciate you sharing what you shared about your vision of the community and how you're kind of bringing those people in and letting them do what they do best.
And here's the crux of it as it relates to what you're asking. You know, how do we do this? And I'm going through it. as we speak, which is letting go, right? And allowing others to kind of, we call it delegation, we call it a lot of different things. But in community building, this is like, I think, the second iteration of the system community, with a lot of mess ups and pains and, challenges and blow ups, and like the only reason why, well, I'm pretty tenacious, and I did core for myself the first time in 2018, in this thing called personal core. And when I designed it, I designed all these different interesting things that were coming kind of like from literally like the thing that's in the core 3.0 kit, that is you in the past, which people are like, what are you talking about? You in the past, you in the future, foundational you, and it's and the destination is literally a type of tarot reading, right? That you're looking at the past, you're looking at the future. What do you need to make it to this part, right? So when I did that and I put myself in the middle, which in the tarot reading is the issue. So in the case of me, I am the issue. Um, it had just three things. One was growing or healing in community. Let's call it that. Media management, which is like, me handling all this video and all this kind of stuff, which I'm still not even at a good point with. But at a minimum, I using Circle as a platform, I have some control at this stage of launching, right? But then doubling down on my gifts, which is live and facilitation, and literally like facilitating community meetings. And then I made the amalgam of my facilitation experience for teams into something called Circle, right? Called Circle Dynamics, right? And then I put it on my Instagram, right? Because instead of building in a straight line or like, following whatever it is that, the playbooks are for growth on Instagram, et cetera, which this morning or yesterday on my Instagram is full of like, astrology and woo. And this guy's like, look, Taurus, you need to actually slow the F down and actually learn exactly what you're doing and study the damn details in the instructions. You played it too loose till now, and I'm like, damn, you're like, what are you saying to me? And I'm listening to that. But if you come to any of the core Circle sessions, I'm just starting it, right? Setting it into the Circle dynamic and letting the flow of it create what it is that every individual needs from it. So the thing that's missing from that, though, aside from those sessions being in a specific way, is that all the people in it also did the My Core coaching program. So here's what ended up happening in the My Core coaching program, because we were doing it with each other, right? In the group program, you were defining, there's like 3 or 4 exercises that are personal kind of development, your hero's journey, the things that, happen in your life that created your gifts. Therapists call it, Jungian therapists call it wounds, inciting events in writing and like storytelling. But these were like, whatever they might be, yours is burnout, yours, but we go back, right? Go into your 7 to 13, and everyone has like, one person had cancer at 16, and I'm like, damn.
Wow.
And then they left Italy and went to New York and started working in restaurants, and I'm like, that's insane. And then went back to work at his dad's advertising agency. So we all knew that about each other, right? So we knew that. And then we knew our North Star. We knew what we want to create. So now when we're coordinating and we're like behind the scenes, call it a secret society, call it whatever you want. I'm helping, one of the members fine tune his agency and did interviews. I helped facilitate interviews with his clients, and I did the scripts with them. I did, I interviewed him and his partner to see what they wanted to get out of it. Because let's be fucking brutal. The agency model sucks.
Yeah, for sure.
There's ways to make it better, but if you're in, we're all trying to figure out how to make that jump to being, let's just call it making a living without paid
Yeah.
services.
Yeah, of
Let's just call
course.
it that. It doesn't have to be creators. I hate personal branding. Whatever the labels are, no labels. Just like we just want to live well, right?
Yeah.
In our gifts, in our gift. So that is ultimately kind of like the goal, right? And I have no damn idea of what that is, because I'm the guy who hates it when people tell me exactly how to do it. Here's the proven framework, and I'm like, fuck off. I want to do it my way. So then, like, well, how do those people do it, right? And my answer so far has been listen to the collective. So here's the what it is, simply from an extracted. The drop in was, what did you get out of the My Core program, right? And we're doing this in the product development sense, trying to they're asking, hey, what do we do? How do we get more community members involved? What do we do? And it's okay, what did you get out of the My Core program, and what are you getting out of what we're doing right now? And I'm not talking about there's not 100 people. It's a small cohort, and the truth is that you can't do a cohort bigger than 6 in a mastermind. You have to then split it up, and the people that are now, I'm not centered to the camera, the people that are now finishing, that are now in it will become the leaders of the next one, right? So they will each, when we all gather, they will go in a room on Zoom and they'll facilitate the new folks, right? That's how you do it. But here, I'll read them just even with that. To create a safe container where vulnerability feels natural, not forced. To model honesty in communication, relationships, and personal clarity. To replace overperforming and grounded presence. So versus performative, to cultivate coherence between inner and outer expression, like who I am, and that's all from one person, and that's very distilled to make it less flowery, which it was. This is another person. To integrate somatic, physical, spiritual, and strategic practices into a lived framework. So the struggle, and remember I said about Leos that this person has had, is the permission to, after his journey of burnout and having worked in big agencies, and if you've worked at a big agency or any agency, it doesn't even matter, and you haven't burned out, wow, kudos to you. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know anybody who hasn't had that moment of like, well, wait, this is too much. But then that person, goes on to, work on all these practices, and now they're trying to integrate that, and they're doing it with their clients. So their clients end up doing meditation, somatic work, and all this stuff before facilitating and doing the work. And when you see the work and the results of it, I'm like, damn. So we're designing literally a new world. And the fact that might not even compute to the old ways, is the space that we're creating. So we can slow down enough for true emergence to occur, because the models that are coming afterwards are completely, the future is totally like up to us, one, but it's a whole new world. And when I write in the metaphor of new world, and I call it a new world, I am talking about that, and my writing has become very coded and metaphoric, but I'm actually putting everything in there, because otherwise I sound like a madman, right? Nobody wants to sound like a madman. So hint, tip, write in metaphor. And I'm writing to you, and I'm writing to other obnoxious, we will then say, oh, I kind of feel it. Notice that I didn't say I know exactly what you're feeling it, not thinking it. Right. So when you have resonance, not grokking it cognitively, we can create embodied experiences, meaning things that feel good. And that goes back to ancestral wisdom. So the world that we're seeing play out on TV, the reality show that is the world, because literally it is the world, being run by the reality show master, Gemini, by the way. Dark Gemini, and if you do their Mayan kin, like if you do the personality assessment for that person, they are the child. This is crazy and literal. They are the child of um, Hugo Chavez. Hugo Chavez and that person have a kin, which is Mayan version of the of Fido, of the personality, and that their type, one spawns the other, like
Whoa.
one encouraged the other to emerge. And it's true. It is very true. If you look at the behavior and you look at the playbook,
This is so crazy.
who's a person that person projects, like, damn them people most? Venezuela, right?
For sure.
That's projection because they're using the same playbook. So anyway,
that's
and
wild.
the transmuting of that pain and the complexity that's happening right now, collectively and globally, into a direction that we can design from is really what. And this is, again, this is this all that is not me. This is one person's experience with it. So finally, somebody who's evil dorky to reclaim their voice and authorship, and creative direction through structure. They're evil dorky, so structure and reflection. So they like the consistency, they like the process, they like the frameworks, they like order, and of course the rest of the cohort embraces them, loves them, and gives them a little bit of, like, shakes them up a little bit, to, like, see the other stuff. And finally is like, if we can translate emotional truth, like, all those things that we can feel it, into strategic momentum, that's really important. So people, evil dorky people, benefit from coming and being with obnoxious, flaky, obnoxious, evil, obnoxious, with the other Fidos, because it excites and inspires them, because we're mainly kind of, in Spanish is nos gusta hablar paja. We like to talk bullshit, but
Talk
it
some shit.
but that judgment of talking with without a goal and objective, very corporate culture, that judgment is ultimately what stops us from having connected conversations. That judgment is what causes us to have shallow, relationships, and ultimately, from an operating system standpoint, if you extrapolate corporate culture globally, because you could say, oh, uh, American corporate culture. No, it comes from Britain. It comes from the East India, trading company. And think about what the goals, the purposes, and the objectives of those corporations, companies. Let's call it company. What were they? What was the objective of the East India Trading Company?
Oh boy, I actually don't know.
Colonialism. To extract resources.
That makes perfect sense.
To extract resources from brown people that had been conquered by force. So that organized a lot of the corporate culture that then went to the US. And even though we got rid of the king and we became our own thing, people still study at Cambridge and at Oxford and at all these, colleges that teach corporate culture, right? Hierarchical thing. You're in a fraternity, you get trained in a certain way, how to speak, how to, like, dominate, and how to control. Jeez. Okay. And then you say, well, crap, if corporate culture is colonial culture, and now you're extrapolating it into this digital version of it, startups basically took it to another level, right? If you read some of the seminal books, and not in design thinking, not in all the hippie stuff, but right, like, blitz scaling, or like, all that kind of stuff, it is very what is it when you have something that's concentrate, like those soaps that you get that are concentrate. Startups are concentrate colonial culture.
Holy smokes.
Fall in line. And why is it that a bunch of white dudes, in a startup work way better than a diverse group? Because it moves faster. The minute you add a person of color or a woman into that team,
sure,
screwing up the whole dynamic. They don't have the same coded language. They don't have the same, values. You're going to screw up the whole team.
Yeah.
So I saw that because I worked in the blockchain space at a huge, 1,000, 1,500, person, and I was doing organizational development, and I had a young Black woman come up to me and go, how can I even fit in this thing? How do I even like have anybody listen to me or do my ideas? And I said, honey, you don't. You
Yeah.
just go do
It
your
just
own thing and start your own thing and build your own team and don't. And it was kind of like, it wasn't that the resistance, it wasn't about fitting in. I was saying, you're going to have to just do your own and take your own, because
yeah,
that energy of like, take your own, we are not encoded with it.
for
And the
sure.
book that I'm writing in on Substack right now, which is a very cathartic kind of like coded version of my story over the last 9 years, is it, the next chapter is about that. It's really literally about Afro descendant peoples, because I might look this way, but at the root of it, I am from an Afro descendant family on my mom's side of the family, and all of that epigenetically is encoded in you. And this is the last thing I'm going to say. And I actually outsourced my agency, and I'm not talking about agency as the agency model. I'm talking about my agency as a human and my confidence. If you ever get into a space where you have this conversation with people of color who have code switched in order to be able to, navigate a work environment, let's say the agency world, creative
Hmm.
agencies, because I've had this conversation. Uh, at the end, you have to either one, surrender the fact that you're of color, right, and just behave in the coded way that the culture has, or two, in my case, what I've been working on doing is recognizing my outsourcing of my agency. Like literally, I responded when a very close person to me who knows me really well, when I was telling, they asked me a question uh, about a person or about a people, and I literally, what came out of my mouth was like, her response was like, "What, are you living on a plantation?" And the adaptation of me as a child, when I was younger, to survive became, depending on others for my agency. So therefore I had to like please and dance and be the obnoxious kid who was, you know precocious, right? As an adult in my 20s and my 30s, I did the same, right? So I I I I said, in order for me to be able to sell and put this kind of price on a proposal, uh, I'm going to have somebody else help me prepare it, or help, or be there in the room with me when I'm pitching it, right? So that it's not Jose Caballer, this Dominican kid, pitching $1 million project. It's actually Jose Caballer with, this other person who happens to be, white. And again, we're both, you know, but I have the name Jose, which I didn't use for a long time in high school. I used to Abraham, my
Really?
middle name, and then I had this whole Latino, and screw Mecha and screw all the Latin power people in California and Southern California. And I'm just kidding. I love them. So I went to a school that had an organization that Mecha, which it was about Latin pride. It's specifically Mexican American, and I'm like, you know what? I should probably not be embarrassed of using my first name. And so between community college at Pasadena City College and art center, I ended up changing my name back, or using Jose, not changing it legally, but using it. And the first day of school in orientation, a friend who knew me from community college, who was also going to art center, who goes up to me and sees my name tag and goes, "Who the fuck is Jose?" And I'm like, "It's me. That's my first name." He goes, "No, that's my gardener." And I'm like, "Oh my god, that's exactly what I was afraid of." And
Wow.
I never talked to her, but or we weren't friends anymore after that.
Sure.
That's not the point. And the point is that outsourcing your agency and your confidence only works for so long. Eventually, you're going to have to integrate it, or otherwise, you just can't do anything, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's not a unique story to me. It's something that I've had to deal with in coaching the community over and over again. And one of the things that I saw in the system 1.0, who gravitated to the community, and how what I had to do was model, um, over and over again, and then allow them in a safe space to model. And by them, I mean everyone, to model the behavior, so that when they went out, then it was practiced the same way an actor will practice their lines, or a golfer will practice in private over and over again. The literal mechanic of the system 1.0 and now the system 2.0 in concerted effort is that we show up, we use the framework to be on stage, to share who we are authentically, to feel good, until you, Kevin Mooney, can then show up and be the dude in the bathtub saying, you know what? Fuck you, fuck you. Well, you don't say that, but you know what I mean? Like, you just
I
basically
do.
express yourself in your full power in public without fear of not being able to make money because of it. And here's the thing. Here in Panama, one of my friends, Leo, who I went to his wedding, he has a whole club. It's called Los Atorrantes, which I call pirates. When you meet everyone, everyone's like, it's you and me. We're all like, just like, these are people that are like literally like pirates, gruff and
Yeah.
like, and it's not coincidence that you're from Oregon, that you're in Bend, Oregon, because that's the frontier of the United States. I
Right.
am complete. That is a long walkabout to say coming out as our true self is really ultimately the goal, and not through performing steps in a process, is actually doing the work to integrate. And that's a lot harder than just, hey, here's the 7 steps to a
Yeah.
7 coaching practice.
I mean, I don't even know how long that was, and I don't care. That was exactly what I wanted to hear from you. I can't even go back and unpack a lot of the things that you said. I mean, there's things that I want to maybe dive into a little bit, but um, I again, I think I see the system 2.0 a little bit differently now, and it makes a little bit more sense going back in my mind, looking at the conversations that are being had. And I'll just say it. I'm a straight white man in Bend, Oregon. It's like everybody would look at me and say, "Well, you've got it made." Um I don't think I've ever had a problem being who I am. I just am who I am. I think that I've got some like ego blockage in it somewhere in my head that has stopped me from doing things like this and talking about it, but it hasn't been societal pressures. Um, and it's kind of crazy I mean, you hear stories like this often, but it's crazy to hear these stories that there's people in this community that feel that pressure to this day, and they need some coaxing of their true selves out of them. And I don't know, it kind of touches me to hear this story and to hear that these people are going through this still today. Because I don't have that problem. I just haven't literally put it out in the world. I haven't talked about it. But me in a bathtub full of kale smoking a cigar, that's just like a Tuesday night. Like, heck yeah, it sounds great.
Which, by the way, when you showed up in the community, I'm like, yeah, motherfucker, that's what I'm talking about, right? Because part of it is me being able to be comfortable and validate the fact of who I am, and slowly, and I use the term coming out not in the gay sense, but in the
Sure.
like true self sense. Because think about it this way, dude, and this will be brief, and I'll let you get back to your thread and to pull it. If you think about it from the point of view that, our generation before us, TV was something that an anchor and a performer was able to do, and they had to like either fake it, right, which is one strategy, and the other strategy is method acting and become the character, right, and just spill it all out on the screen, their guts and their emotions. I'm being dramatic,
Sure.
but
It works.
now we live in that 24/7, meaning we're on Zoom all the time, frozen to death, or casually natural, right, whichever one it is. We have to create content. Oh my god, the C word, content. We have to get on camera, we have to do podcasts, we have to do all these things. it, think about it from a point of view of psychologically, like what the world that we have entered into. There's all those videos on YouTube about how authenticity is overrated and you shouldn't be authentic in your videos. You should just whatever. But whatever the truth is or not is, it doesn't matter. We live now in a world where the mediation of conversations is happening at such a freaking media scale. Are you ready to have your podcast go viral and become really like, like get to the scale of Chris Do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that it. I
Do
don't
you
know that it
need to
will.
even?
Well, that's
Well, hold on. Does it even matter?
yeah.
That's it. Does it even
Well,
matter? So,
yeah.
but you have to be comfortable with the possibility and not care. It's like what's the sound of one hand clapping? Anyway, I'll shut the hell up.
No, it's great. I mean, you're touching on a lot of points. Like, I don't know that I'm ready for shit. I don't know what the hell I'm even doing. I don't know if there's anybody on the planet that wants to listen to P guys ramble and spiral into outer space and talk about stuff, pull on the heartstrings and talk about processes and selling and marketing and whatever all that bullshit is. But I know that I have to do it for myself and I'm going to put it out there. And I think I want to sort of take that. I hate saying it because I look like I'm a bald guy. That Joe Rogan attitude of just like post and ghost. Like, this isn't for anybody else. This is for me. This is for my soul. This is for the ability to talk to people, learn from people, understand how they think, how they view the world. And if somebody else gets something out of it, then yay, great. And if nobody else, or if nobody wants to get anything out of it and they think it's stupid, then also great. That's fine. You've got 500 million other podcasts that you can listen to. So it kind of comes back to this idea of like what my short-term and long-term goals are for doing this thing. And the short-term goal, which is probably going to be a very long time, is resharpening the skills that I feel like I kind of lost in the last year and a half, 2 years. And those skills, I mean, they went away for a lot of reasons. Man, I had a terrible accident with my newborn. I fell down the stairs. She hit her head. She fractured her skull. We got life flighted up to Portland, Oregon, went to the children's hospital, had to do surgery. She's okay. But the impact that had on not only my mind, but my body, it turned off a lot of systems internally. And my testosterone had tanked and gone really far down, and that caused a lot of brain fog and uncertainty. That happened at the same time that I closed my agency down. So it was like part of the happiest time in my life to exit an agency and bring a child into this world. And then you have some trauma that is layered on top of that. And then you try to come back from it. And I'm just doing this solo by myself, picking up the phone to talk to a client and then going back to my computer to do strategy and then try to do some design work, which I'm really not skilled in, which I'm really not educated in. I'm just mimicking what I see in the world, things that I like, things that I believe align with the strategy that we've done. Um, you know, I guess that was a huge tangent. I'm way over here in outer space, but the point is like what I'm trying to do is get back to sharpening some of those skills that I had that I believe that I've lost, and being in an office by myself, not having 7 people to talk to every day. That was one of the things I loved most about the agency, was coming in and bullshitting with the team every day and debating and arguing with and being like, that's not good creative. We need to do so, whatever the hell I said. That was a huge part of my life, and I don't have that anymore. So like this thing here is doing that for
Is
me.
that
It's exactly that. And so to come back to another connection point on another circle is I don't give a shit if anyone listens to this stuff. This is for me. This is for my soul. And if there are some episodes that have some really good information that I've basically gotten from you or Christo or Marty Newmeyer or any of those other people, the books that I've read, I'm happy to share it and I want to share it. And then maybe there's an opportunity down the road somewhere in the distant future where somebody hears what I have to say and they go, gosh, I like that guy. Maybe I can hire him. And then maybe I can make some money to keep this thing going. But it's not goal number one. It's not purpose number one. Whew. So that's my little rant about all this.
Not only do I hear it, the connection. So always the kind of like, well, I don't know if this made any sense, or if the judgment, right, that we always have when we're being nonlinear. We need to end that judgment, because again, there are people who know how to speak this language and who can see it. Now, is it better to have presence and to do the low slog, kind of podcasts, where people, Ezra Klein, for the New York Times, where it's like, well, tell me, like, like NPR, which I like. It basically, I'm like, NPR frazzles me, and I make fun of it, but I also listen to it
Sure.
when I'm in the States. Well, not anymore because it's probably going to go away. But or as Cartman said, lesbians and Jews on the radio complaining. The thing you said about podcasts, about it doesn't matter, you don't give a shit if anybody listens, or if, like even the comfort of saying a few bad words in the whole process versus like, oh my God, don't. Here's the reality. Yes, nobody's listening to this. One, two. What this is, I'll tell it to you in a story. My first year, in 2014, my first burn, I was, somebody told me the secret is to go build. So I showed up really early, eager beaver with everything, including knee pads. Don't ask what those are for, but to build, it's to build stuff, right? You're really building. And that I got there on a Tuesday, Thursday night. All the builders, now friends and comrades, go out drinking, to Spanky's wine bar, where you do fire enemas. Don't ask, it's a thing. But well, anyway, I went deep into the playa, and for whatever I took, whatever it might be, and I think it was just alcohol.
Sure.
Getting back, because remember, it's my first time. I don't remember where my camp is. Oh, I got to get back at 4:00 in the morning or 3:00 in the morning and find my people that I had left with. And I can only do it by retracing like memento where I had been on the way there and the way out.
Sure.
Because everybody's so friendly. You're stopping at every, place that draws your attention.
Yeah, it's like, they got something for you.
And they got something for you. They got an experience to give you. And they're so friendly. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Where am I? Especially for obnoxious people. So it took me a while to get back, and scene by scene, I was like, oh my God, like, okay. And finally I actually, there's a tiki bar, which is tropical in theme. And it's actually a carriage, like on wheels. And I walked in, and my whole crew was there, and they're like, "Where have you been? Like, where's we lost you somewhere in the whole thing." And I totally forgot the point of that story. Oh, yeah, that you make your way back, right? We have these conversations that might be, so you're stopping in every single one of these places. Like part of it was, since I didn't know the streets or anything, I was just walking through camps. and I'm walking through a tent, some kids from East LA, like, and they're like, oh, what's up, homie? And I'm like, oh, okay. It was like, yeah, grab a seat. All right, grab a seat here. We got it. And I spent 20 minutes chatting in Spanish with them. I'm like, all right, thanks. You go back out and you keep on walking, right? It's like, you literally learn the art of conversing, and well, I happen to be able to do that. Not everybody, but most people. I'm not like most people, but that whole experience taught me what being on different podcasts, right, is. You're just
Yeah.
basic. I'm showing up to Kevin Mooney's camp, and we're gonna talk about
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
and cool. And some people will show up, and some people won't. And then the next one, that in itself, what podcasts are able to do on any topic, that whole ecosystem. Here's the question: does it matter if there's too many podcasts? No,
No,
because
I don't think so.
it's just about what resonates with who, and having real conversations. And if it's real, and if there's somebody relates to it, then they'll show up. And
Yeah.
then, like you said it well, I don't have to repeat how you said it, but that story of kind of traversing all these different cultures, it is humanity, and is the thing that heals this this bifurcation via labels, that both the algorithm, that branding, does. Because branding was about control of mind share, right, of your thoughts and feelings about a particular thing, beauty, or home, or a particular food or whatever. Now you extrapolate to the digital era, you extrapolate to Instagram, you extrapolate. We live in one of the most violent times for your mind in history,
Yeah.
because everything has metastasized, is the best word, into some sort of, like, you know and the thing that almost, like, I feel like Saul, becoming Paul on the way to Damascus. you know I'm not regretful to have shown Christo brand strategy, and, like, to show creatives, which core is basically, it's basically brand driven user experience with business goals.
Right.
That simple. I don't care about all the other things, and even positioning, and all the whole shebang. If I can know those three things, I can probably do a website for somebody, or do an identity for somebody. Of course, there's
100.
deeper layers that you can go into. But somebody from Oregon just emailed me the other day when I sent out our newsletter, saying, "Oh my God, I just used it after 15 years again, and it still works."
It's still
Um,
magic.
yeah, the point I'm trying to make is this: here we are in 2025, and everyone's a designer, everyone's launching a new brand, a personal brand. Like, there isn't, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting some asshole with a personal brand, because
Hmm.
we're all now media people, we're all now entities, we're all now the business and the model, and the business model, and monetizing attention, right? Because that's the thing. So holy shit, if that's not a recipe for losing your soul. Because if before we were going to lose our soul to Madison Avenue, you know now we're going to lose our soul to the algorithm. uh
Yeah.
our job, your job as a disruptor, as like your human design as itself, is to really literally, like, help people transition and bridge to this next phase, in a way that your story, like the burnout, the agency world, starting over again, exactly what we're talking about here now, is not just your story. It's actually my story
Sure.
too.
Yeah.
It's actually, it, it's such a, like, let's say we stick this conversation into an AI transcriber, and we extract an organized structure of what it is that we talked about, and then we compare it to the conversations that we're having in our circles and with some of the other people. uh, we all have such similar stories. We are
Yeah.
all starting to have, the same white hairs. We're all making the transition into the age of wisdom, but we also have this concern, whether it's for our children or for the future, that, man, what is the world that we're designing? What is the life that we want to design? Because ultimately, you know, think globally, act locally. Uh, it's only our lives that we can design and take accountability for, and personal responsibility for. And the thing that I suffered from, that I want to make sure that in this new age other people don't fall in the same thing is that I try to be authentic in my expression of who I am online. And what you call me not going for, the fame or for the other things was, and other people have said the same thing in the community, uh, was really like my questioning of, can I be vulnerable and authentic in myself so widely, uh, and still kind of hold together, like, my own container, right? Whatever
Yeah.
that means. So that the thing being that if we decide to play a character to allow us then to end scene and go have our life with our kids and with our family and with our private life, and then get on stage, in the camera and play a character, um, that's great. But if we're obnoxious something, or if we're like, this person that requires to go to work and chat and like just be real with people, really connect and really have this conversation, uh, we have to create the spaces for where that is possible.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's what we're doing here. That's what you're doing. So the fact that you're doing it, for me, holds a space that I don't feel judged and I feel comfortable, and it's basically where it's a resonance and a co-created space that, whether or not you understood exactly what the system and what the community was all about, you could feel it, and probably because of the people who invited you into it, like Heather
Sure. Of
Crank and
course.
like
Yeah.
Matt, all these people. Because, and notice again, Oregon, I spent a lot of time in Oregon while I was starting the school. The first financing for the school came from Oregon. Some of the big companies and exits from designers who became founders happen in Oregon. It's not coincidental.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's so, I've gone through all of those phases, and what you were just talking about, I've had my own existential crises. Um, my brain went to this weird space in the last like 6 months. Like, if the earth is 52 million miles away from the sun and we're in the Goldilocks zone, and that's precisely how far you have to be away from the sun in order to have life exist, whether it's trees or plants or humans or whatever. But the universe is expanding and we're going somewhere and we're not going to be here anymore. Then what does any of this mean? Why are we doing this? Why do I care about brand? Why do I give a shit about making this really amazing identity for this client so that they can turn and sell whatever the hell they're selling? Like, it didn't make any sense to me, and I couldn't reconcile it. And I knew that I had to get back to work, and the personal brand was the buzzword. It still is kind of the buzzword. And I'm like, well, I guess I can go in that direction, but in true fashion to myself, I'm not going to do it the same way that everybody else does it. And so now I'm still in that space of like, well, now what do I do? What is the content that I put out? This stupid C word. I don't know. I can't figure out a plan. Do I need a dorky person to tell me what that plan should be? Yeah, probably. But at the same time, I'm probably not going to follow that plan because I'm just wired that way. And I don't know. It's just kind of a long way of tying into the things that you're talking about. I don't know, but I do know that it's good for my soul to talk, so I'm talking. And yeah, I don't know. That was my short-winded response to
Your
what you have to say.
your water. So Pisces, right? Like it's a flow. Like you feel it when it's there. You're highly sensitive, to people's energy, intuition, and even to the health. So you have to protect yourself, which you've been doing. That 2004 that you took off. The rest and the needs. That so here the key summary from your energy centers, from your human design: you have a strong voice and an emotional authority. So you can say it with feeling and meaning, but then you also have a deep pressure to act, but you don't have any sacral energy. What that means is You have to pace yourself, right? I am a sacred authority. So because I'm a generator, 70% of people are generators. And this is the worker bees, but I'm a manifesting generator,
Yeah.
which has a problem, which is like if you put it on paper and the definition of that relative to human design, and you put ADHD on paper next to each other, they're basically, it's a recipe for like, woo, going this way, going this way, going,
Yeah.
responding to whatever's around, which is not great to focus in this world, especially when you're in a computer world and you have Pinterest and YouTube and all this stuff. So I have to really anchor myself with index cards and like with, here's exactly what I'm doing right now, and keep on going back to it. And one of the reasons why I like tarot so much, I respond. So, I have never done a reading that isn't exactly on point. I have never done a reading that isn't exactly on point now. So, for our Christian friends, for our skeptical friends who are going to say, holy, what are you talking about? That's, whatever, divination. Here's the thing. We live in an energy field, and it's a quantum energy field, right? So everything is happening all at once, right? If you look at my LinkedIn, it says everything is connected. You know, okay, that's not the best, uh,
Sure.
clear. Like, what do you do? What do you sell? What's your value proposition? What's your position? So the reason I'm saying that is that because you pull out meaning, you ascribe meaning to things. I love what you said about, you know, every single second of your life. Now it's about providing uh, two things. One is presence, to being there, and to getting rid of all the symbols. Because if you think of logos, I just got a notification from Circle. It's a little C, right? To design a good logo for a modern application, you want to make sure that it's super recognizable and people know, oh, that's, Circle.
Yeah.
And there's, if you look at religions, faiths, cultures, symbols become, the the um, the thing that takes the idea forward in the heart and ingrains it. The reason why I don't like using the word brand is because inherently the word brand comes from, thank you, Marty Newmeyer. Thank you for all those people early, a cow being
Mm-hmm.
branded by the owner
Right.
with fire in a thing. And it's like, oh, that's a little bit violent. It's like,
Sure.
I don't want to brand.
Yeah.
But if you go from the inside out, which is then becomes the energy of, you know, of your essence, of the elemental nature of who you are through presence, then what starts happening on the exterior is congruent with what's happening on the interior, and the reality that you want to create, or the things that you're gravitating towards or you want to bring towards your field, begin to gather, right? So it's kind of like assembling the reality around you via that kind of definition, which starts with words. So like brand attributes, you know, uh, and we call them core attributes now. Uh, and it's define your essence statement in my core, which then kind of are just basically, it doesn't have to be exactly what you are in your positioning, but the words create the energy field that begin to coalesce it. So the challenge, you asked it at the beginning, and I want to bring it up again, and I have a fucking crazy answer to this. Then how do we get to the goals, to the objectives, make money, live well from being ourselves? And the answer is it's in the Fido. It's like if you have a collective, a group of people that have those strengths, who are conscious of what the other people are, and that my job isn't to do it for you, because it's all about personal accountability. I take care of myself, you take care of yourself, etc. But it's to recognize the other person and say, hey, I can offer you, support in accomplishing your goals by helping you be accountable. And it might not even be a person that is, the opposite. It might be, you know, you get stuff done, you have that energy to get things done. But by being with others like-minded, who believe in what you're doing and are holding that kind of space for you, that's why it's called the space station, the system space station. Suddenly you believe sufficiently to keep on going on the journey, and those things start to happen, and you start to, do that podcast and write your book, and that client starts coming, and those things start happening, and you're like, wait, what the heck just happening? And it was simply the collective conscious unified around the belief of what it is that we're creating. So the continual alignment, what we're doing right now in the community of putting the attributes together, it's basically coalescing to what we all need in order to get the things that, it's not even because desire then becomes irrelevant.
Sure. Yeah.
If we look at the objective, like, I want to get this, or I want to have this, possess, own, etc. From an energetic standpoint, you don't really want, the seven figures, yes, the whatever it is, but it's so that you can have, a good home for your family, so that you can have time and freedom. Nobody's doing anything to have the objects and the symbols. I mean, some people are.
Some people are, right.
But if you're really authentically creating wealth and abundance, is ultimately about being able to create the space and what you want to do. And the reality is that we all have that already. The only difference is that the system that we were in part of before, like, let's say the agency world, or jobs, or all these things, those systems have always been, and for no fault of ours or of the world's, basically extractive and colonial.
Yeah.
Period. Employment is colonial. You having an agency, yes sir, and having to sell, be like this constant thing. It's a performative kind of thing. To what ends? The reason I closed my agency is because I don't even own this stuff I'm doing. I'm getting paid to help you build something for yourself that I'm not going to have ownership in. You know what? Let me go build something myself.
Yeah.
With my design talent, or with my creativity, or with my time. And then coincidentally, all that world is ending right now because of AI, and because of, where we are. And one of the things that I talked about very early on in the community in System 1.0 was Alvin Toffler's book, Future Shock, which is, look, in the future, the business of the future is personal development. And I kept on repeating that over and over again. And when you had Gen Xers who would be like, you can't be a 24-year-old, spiritual coach on TikTok. And I'm like, watch them do it. Because you can. And that's because that person depended on a model where being validated was a university, or the church, or like, certifications. And nowadays you just got to do it. And if people believe you and you sell them and you give them value, you get paid. Certifications, it doesn't matter. And the shame that we carry from the past to the future, I'm talking about myself, about the value that who we are is the value. Our essence is the value. Being true to ourselves is the value. Kevin Mooney in a bathtub smoking a cigar, cursing, and having that podcast is the value. There is the minute we try to abstract that and say, what can I give that is the value proposition? Fuck that. It's your essence. So my core is basically from the inside out, because your essence is the value, where before you were creating a shell, the identity, the things, like this for a company. And the question, some companies carry their essence outward, but some companies just want to do some dude or person or corporate, especially corporations, where the disconnection between the actual intention is no longer there, because they're a publicly held company and all they got to do is keep on making money. So the authenticity of a brand becomes more and more difficult as you abstract the model more and more. But now that it's like you're the model and you're the business and you're the thing, that now allows us to do it from the inside out. And the next stage, or the next step for the system or for the idea, is super simple. When you go build a brand for a company, let's say a corporation, or let's say even a small company, instead of going in and creating the container that is the brand by facilitating it, which core does for between all the people and defining it, no. You start with each individual being defined with their core, and the makeup of the collective, the makeup of the makeup of each individual's core essence is what ends up making up the thing, the company. So the last thing I'll say
Whoa.
is this: when people start saying, "Oh, community is the next brand," community is the next brand, it is because it's true if you think about it from that point of view, and from the point of view of decentralization and what's coming down the pipe in terms of monetary systems. And I will shut up.
Holy shit. Jose, you just keep blowing my mind.
We're at an hour and a half. We're both tired. So yeah.
I do want to just maybe say something or ask another question. I don't know if I can flush it out because you said so much. Unless you've got to go, I'll let you out of here right now.
I do not have to go. This is very pleasurable, and I'm getting over the judgment of sounding like a madman.
You're not at all. I mean, everything you said is right, in my opinion. The inside out thing is really cool. The idea of, I'll try to dumb this down, or maybe I'm just dumb the way I communicate sometimes. I think that it's really hard to sell core and strategy kind of as it is. The idea of breaking that down to each person in the collective and allowing that to form the brand, right? Let's say we're talking about this in the agency box right now. That seems basically impossible at this point in time. But what does sound really interesting is the community aspect of it. And I'm trying to search for a way in my brain to make sense of that somehow. Let's say I build a community and I get 15 people in there. That's all I've got. And those 15 people, we're running core on it. Isn't it? Oh, these thoughts are super disconnected. Wasn't the attractant me in the first place to get those people in that community? And then how do we take that and transition it to the community itself and let it build its own brand? Because I mean, that's kind of what you're doing right now. The system is Jose, and now it's not Jose. Now it is the community, and you're defining the voice as the community, and then it's going to essentially rebrand itself somewhere down the line. It's going to become that entity. I think that's really cool. I don't understand quite how to monetize that thing, even if it doesn't need to be monetized. I don't know what the purpose of that becomes, and maybe it's because I haven't seen an example like that in real life happen. So these are just all my disconnected thoughts of what you just said, which I think is really cool, because when I go into any engagement, whether I'm building a website, whether I'm doing a marketing campaign, whether I'm doing advertising, or I'm hired for a visual identity, I do brand strategy. And it is core my way, right? But it is focused on the three main characteristics of it: brand, customers, and goals, right? That's the crux of it all. But the point is that I sell it individually. I package it in a service, because I've found that, I got to keep the lights on, right? I got to sell something to keep the lights on. So I'll sell a website and I'm going to do brand strategy. That gives me what I need to do the job. It makes them feel like they were very engaged. How could you possibly do that with somebody and their entire team, meaning you're going to define each and every one of their cores and then say, this is the catalyst to your brand now? Like, that seems fucking bananas to me. But I like the idea. I think it's super unique.
It's less unique than you think. It already exists, and
Son of a bitch.
we're looking at it in front of us. And if you you know Coin Telegraph, which I have as one of the tabs or one of the things on my, and you look at the entire uh, forget about the stock market, the traditional stock market. Let's just look at the crypto side. Um, so I'm going to give you a very concrete answer to how those things exist from three places. One is my 2 years, 3 years at ConsenSys, which I saw from early stage when Ethereum was at $80 to when it now it's at 3,500 or something like that, and that where the founder was basically, the model was that they would give $500, sorry, $500,000 to a few kids who had an idea. Right, it's an accelerator. The person who brought me there actually was one of the first members, one of the first people to come to core, to Groop Skool, and do one of those training sessions like 15 years ago. And then and this person also happens to be my coach today. He's an investor, and he's 35. He's retired. He's figuring out what to do. He's coaching, so he's coaching me, right? And then every time we do a session, we do it every 2 weeks. It's like another unlock for me. Because you have to keep growing. That's one of the other big things. But so ConsenSys showed me the way, the process, and I'm like looking at it going like, oh my God, this is insane. Because the inherent value of the ecosystem, uh, it's encapsulated in the Ethereum price. So by developing the ecosystem, right? MetaMask, which is a wallet, Gnosis, which is like managing organizations and the complexity of a company in that space, and multiple wallets, and like all this stuff. Every single one of the startups at that point, at that stage early on, really provided infrastructure for the ecosystem to work. But what you also have to understand is that the blockchain doesn't really exist. There isn't like a there or a place. It's a decentralized network of computers that are being united by a protocol. So the protocol layer, think of it as like one of those 80s grids, those blue cool grids on an LED screen, right? Which represents all the interconnections between all the things. The name of the freaking, token is ether, right? Which in manifestation, in the four elements, the ether is the one above, right? So it's ether, fire, earth, water, and air, right? So and it's the spiritual layer. If you even see the logo, what it represents, two triangles opposed to each other. Every single thing is telling you exactly what it is as it relates to the broader kind of spiritual metaphors in the context of reality. It's nuts, right? So the reason why I'm saying that's what one thing, right, that is doing that. And then if you look at the structure or the idea behind DAOs, right? So if you look at an artist individually who can then create a token for their art, and then create a community and bring people in, and then if I'm already getting big on Spotify, right? Because I've made good quality work, and I won some awards, and now my community gets access to me behind the scenes to release albums, etc. All they have to do, is participate in the token, and the more people that participate, the value goes up. Now I go and borrow, against the $18 million valuation of my token as an artist, and I buy two houses in, Portland, Oregon. That's a real person. That's a real thing, right? Who's an artist. Are they like, Kanye? No, but they have enough Spotify listens and enough people that their community is big enough, right? So that's tokenization of the community. So, that's tokenization of an artist. Then there are DAOs, which are tokenized. A token is very easy to generate on the Ethereum blockchain, right? And then a group of friends, people, usually people that hold a lot of assets in either real world or crypto, and then they work together to provide liquidity for the particular token so that they can fund different projects. whatever the projects might be. One of the projects might be we need to design the identity for our community, or we need to finance this artist because we believe in them, etc. And you suddenly go like, okay, cool, that's what they're doing. But then other people get excited and they come in into the community, and the original people that started will start, you know, giving others the token, right? Just sharing it and spreading it because they have some. The inherent value of it is no different than what does a stock, you know, if the company's making revenue, and mainly if there's buzz, because
Yeah.
the ratio of like revenue to valuation for like a company like Tesla is super disjointed. That's all hype. You know,
Right.
when the dude wears a Doge t-shirt and names a department Doge, he is being the ultimate embodiment of the thing that provides value in today's economy, which is attention. Because there is a Doge coin, which was a meme coin, which was started by a bunch of dudes from Vancouver who would have a decentralized dance party, and they're just totally like nuts, and who hosted like a talk at Burning Man, you know, that I spoke at one year. And, you know, those guys they were just being assholes basically. Um, and the token has a huge amount of, you know, what was issued, even though it's a very low price, the fluctuation. There's people that are riding that puppy and making money playing crazy games like chicken. You know, they're just pumping and dumping, which has a bad name because if it isn't inside the regular system, you know, Wall Street, which is the same thing. You know, who gets more money out of a company going public? You know,
Right.
the people who do the initial public offering, the banks who you go on a roadshow, and Deutsche Bank and this bank and that bank, they're the first to get in, right?
Yeah.
At a nice share price for them because they're believing in your thing. And keep in mind, you're running a company that's making money, so it's not like it isn't, right? Or it's a real thing, quote unquote. But those guys usually get out first, or are able to benefit from it for the most part. Um, the stock market is a game, even though it's working on real world assets. It's no different than if you look at the crypto markets and DAOs, which are trying to accomplish real things. Okay, now you actually extrapolate that into your question of like, how do you make money in general? And the
Mm-hmm.
challenge is that it's not about the hype. Kevin Mooney is an artist. Jose Caballer is an artist. You know, the people that I was just reading, you know, they're my core. And the reason why I'm saying that you get it from the inward outward, and then that creates the brand, it's because if we're all now in the future individual creators, like artists, artisans, the future village, your thing might not be cheeses and meats like if we're in the Renaissance fair. Your thing
Right.
might be like, you know, Kevin Mooney's thing is like whatever you come up with that is what people get from you. It could just be a specific vibe, and what you're selling is the system of how to do it the Kevin Mooney way. That makes
Yeah.
absolutely no sense. But if you look
Sure.
at creators today, that's what's happening. Like
Yes.
everybody's doing the same thing. So then the people look at it from the outside and you're like, wait a minute, what? So then I join a community, I learn the system from one person, and then I go start my own community and teach other people how to do the system in the same way. So wait, are we all just going to be personal development coaches in the future?
Right.
Teaching each other like how to, like, you know, give value to tokens? Uh,
Yeah.
what did the person that now runs the United States do right after, actually 2 weeks before starting their job? They launched
That thing.
a token. They
A
launched a
token.
token.
That's what it
They
is. I don't
launched
know
a
the
meme
words.
coin for
The coin
themselves, and then
thing. Yeah.
one for their wife. And then, you know, their kids launched, you know, a whole like thing so that foreign governments could easily, like, you know, participate in influencing without, you know, without it being
Yeah, it's
illegal,
crazy.
right? What did that person have? And that person's a Gemini, and their gift is attention, right?
Yeah.
They speak, they throw things out, and they run the press stories. That's the currency of that person. Is it good or is it bad?
Sure.
It's man. I mean, like I don't even want to ask that question because it pains me, because that's
Yeah.
why we're doom scrolling and we're like, oh my god, the end of the American experiment. But the reality is that we're now entering a time when the value of who we are and what we do is no longer tied to our output, in an industrial kind of way, in terms of jobs or manufacturing, etc. And it's never going to come back. So we are creatives. We know how to like deal with ideas and
Yeah.
concepts and materialize those things into reality. And now the economy is just all ideas,
For
and then
sure.
it gets translated into physical things through the primary kind of system that we agree on, which in the case scenario of the American century has been the dollarized economy. But man, if you're down here in Latin America where I'm at and you're getting to look at what's actually happening and you're seeing and reading what's happening, and what's, I don't know whether the people that are enacting it are complicit or not. I know that the Silicon Valley guys are pretty clear on what they're doing, uh, and it's basically taking control away from what has been the American experiment. That the dollar was
Yeah.
king simply because we have a lot of military bases and we're
Sure.
America. We defended
Right.
Europe in
Right.
World War II, right? We have a
Uh-huh.
big army. We have a big stick, right? Once that's over, once that the people are like, oh wait, that's not true anymore. Uh, the global South, which is Latin America and Africa, etc., begin to flourish for a couple of reasons. One, because there's still a lot of development to be done, economic, infrastructure. There's still growth. It's a young population, and then second, because notice what El Salvador is doing, notice what Argentina is beginning to follow with, etc. Everybody's starting to tokenize. So they're starting to flip, and the people here, all the crypto people who already got wealthy and left, and they went to Puerto Rico, or they're here in Latin America. All the things that are happening inside that space uh, are basically the people that know what's coming next, which is really when it all flips out of the dollar into a global digital currency. That I know that
Yeah.
sounds conspiratorial and it sounds like we're on the wrong podcast, but
No, man.
that my friend is what I learned in my 3 years in the blockchain space. That's what
That's
that's the plan.
that's fucking wild. I don't know the majority of what you just said. I don't know anything about it, and I haven't followed it. Like, I know a buddy, bought a Bitcoin 10 years ago or some shit like that. I don't know, probably sold it or spent it on pizzas, like that one guy that was on like Instagram or something. The point is, I don't know anything about it. I've I'm not against it, or I don't have like an adverse reaction to the idea of cryptocurrency. I just have been like head down. How do I sell brand strategy to these people? So I've had this type of a view on things that I'm kind of blown away by what you just said. Like the whole idea. I I get a lot of it. I don't get a lot of it. I'm loosely following it. We can have another entire show on that, and I would love to talk more about it because I just don't get it. I don't know. You're light years ahead of me in this conversation, and maybe I need to kind of bang my head against the wall and wake up a little bit to that idea. Because I don't know anything about it. I'm kind of blown away right now, just shocked.
It's for me as a personal uh, journey, the interconnection between the awakening to the understanding, one second, the emotional kind of like work that has to happen to go from you know I'm selling brand strategy, I'm selling my time as my value, I'm doing this thing, to understanding that at the end, who I am, elementally, the power of this one individual within, the grid, within the dude, watch The Matrix, right? And watch it
Yeah.
again with this
Hmm.
conversation in mind. Like, we go from powering the matrix as energy from our labor, from our time, from our hustling, right? To knowing that we can actually control because we're creators of it, right?
Yeah.
And by creators of it, we mean creators of our own reality. So that I'll kind of like bring us home with it being super personal. For me at 52, this transition, I basically did this. Like, I went from like surrendering to this journey, to launching, to what I did with the school, and then taking what was happening and what revenue was being generated from it, and exploring the edges of that kind of. Oops, I'm doing this over here and I'm doing it off stream.
You're
Um,
fine.
Basically going like this, like this, like this, and now to go back up, with the fidelity of knowing that for me and I'm gonna share it with you because it goes into my human design and understanding that. I have these sheets. I'll send you yours, where I do a navigation sheet with a few things that we just pulled. So my life's purpose is to spread consciousness like wildfire. Your life is an energetic field that activates others, not through teaching, but through embodying your truth. So that's the other thing that made me like, what? Oh my God, I don't have to teach. I just have to say crazy things. Your design
Yeah.
says
Hell yeah.
express yourself creatively and honestly. Share with no filter, others will awaken. You're a human ignition switch, a spark that sets others ablaze, but only once you fully own your own flame. Meaning, unmute yourself. I can't be like sitting there going like, oh, I'm saying I'm a madman, I'm judging myself. I need to get in a tub with a cigar and just say, screw it. You need to understand things deeply before you feel ready. So this whole journey that I've been on, it's been about me and just feeling it all. You're an architect. Your strong foundations matter. And you learn through experimentation, which is my profile. I'm a martyr experimenter. Don't ask what that means. It means that you have to understand
Yeah, I
things
get it.
deeply. You learn through experimentations. And the most important part is you don't need to be perfect to share. Share your process. That's what inspires. Your messiness, when spoken with clarity, becomes mastery. You're a builder of new worlds. Your superpower is seeing the future, feeling it in your body and shaping it fast. But you're not here to do everything. You're here to do what lights you the fuck up. I didn't write this. And there's no fire. If there is no fire, the engine stalls. But when the fire is there, you're unstoppable. You don't execute. You redesign systems as you build them. So the whole point, the experiment that we're doing right now, when I'm just giving it to others and we're doing it collectively, is me acknowledging my human design and surrendering to that I'm not here to build it. The system is
Yeah.
going to build itself. You're going to build it. Everybody else is going to build it. And it's not building the system. It's just building you, right? The Kevin
Right.
Mooney value, because then we can encapsulate that value into whatever that might be. Whether the token, keep in mind, so that you understand the concept, it's simply a container.
Yeah.
It's a smart contract with the definition of what it is. Kevin Mooney token. There's 1 million tokens. They're worth 10 cents. Who said that worth? You made it up. And
Right.
then you have, it's like stock certificates. They're worth nothing because there isn't anything there. But then collectively, for example, if I look at the dashboard for the system, you have 146 points and you're a captain because you have 70 comments, because you participated. You did the drop, the what do you call it? The 30-day
The
drop-in
drop in
challenge,
post.
etc.
Yeah.
Right. So now imagine if Kevin Mooney, not only the profile was also encapsulated into a token. And I am not saying crazy things. I'm actually describing an actual platform that I saw some kids build,
Yeah.
where each individual person was part of a social network, and each individual person had tokenized points relative to their behavior on the platform, which were worth something as you created more and more. And I know that sounds insanity, but it's no different than stock market.
No, it's not super crazy. It's a little bit. I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around when you have lived in the traditional model for so long, right? It's just outside your purview, right? You can't really grasp it, but I do understand it. I don't fully understand it, but I do understand it. Yeah, that's wild.
All you have to think of it is this way, because Portland pioneered all this stuff.
Yeah.
If you were to draw and go print a Kevin Mooney, coin, or sorry, bill, like the Americans did, back in the Confederacy or whatever it was, the greenback, right? And it said Kevin Mooney in exchange for 1 unit of value for and you started paying all your friends with it, right? First of all, they would think you're crazy. But if you all own land and if you all had food and things that you were creating, and eventually, it's like, hey, you know what? For these 10 Kevin Mooney, bills, let me have, some carrots and some squash and some, whatever, tomatoes. Great. Okay, thanks. Now you're suddenly exchanging them for something that you can cook and eat and live, right? It's the same construct, right? It's the same exact construct. The long-term understanding is, or the long-term is sovereignty and empowering ourselves to understand that we are worthy of having our value be under our own kind of purview versus giving it away and giving it away and giving it away. And with that, I am complete. We can't give away our value, and our value is not what we think it is. It's not doing stuff for people. Our value is just being ourselves as powerfully as possible, and that is only possible in 2025 in this stage of development, in this media environment where the signal is the most important thing that we can share with other people. And the signal is our own unique expression, who we really are. It sounds insane because the system out there tells you that you're worthy because you have a job and because you drive this type of car, symbol, though the car does get you somewhere, and because you have this type of house, symbol, and because you wear this type of clothes with these brands, symbol. The brands and symbols that have been created by the system to justify oppressing us, we as designers and brand strategists have been creating the fabric of our own oppression.
Right.
We have been creating the trap. And I don't know how to tell people this, because now that the core kid is not on the future anymore, now I feel great because, I'm re-platforming it on our own platform. And now I can openly say, it's like, stop doing it. Stop doing that thing that's creating the oppression, unless we're doing it for our own things. If you're in the core circle, what we're talking about is how to do our own projects, how to finance our own projects, how to build our own world. And the people that are in the core circle are already doing that in their lives. But you guys in Oregon, you guys got the way to do it. There's land up there. You guys got a bunch of hippies up there.
There's plenty of hippies for sure.
Yeah. But what I like about Oregon is that it's not just like, California hippies, which is fashion. In Oregon, you got to survive in the cold.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, the hippie group is very interesting. That's that whole like state of Jefferson type of thing. There's like a rebel mentality in that hippie. So they're a different group. But gosh, Jose, this has been so good, man. You said you were complete. I want to leave it with that because I know that's kind of the sign off there.
But no, listen, I just don't want to we could talk for the next 5 hours and it can, but I also, it's 7:00 here.
Yeah, so, for sure.
I want to be mindful. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you for doing this.